Coming up next on the Voice of Alabama Politics, closed primaries. Also, Jones puts a plan on the table. And can a leader come forth to lead the Democratic Party in Alabama?
All right, let's get out of here.
Sit down.
I've got to stay here. But there's no reason why you folks shouldn't go out into the lobby till this thing blows over.
Wait, don't leave. It's gonna be fun. We want you to watch this. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to the Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, the intrepid reporter and investigative journalist at APR. How you doing, Josh?
I'm all right, and just want my family to know I'm safe. They're taking great care of me as I've been held captive wherever this is that I'm at. Everything's going just fine. So, yeah.
Well, and you know, I was thinking you might be in the same location as Mitch McConnell, but
yeah,
I don't see any hospital beds.
I just
around.
visited Mitch. He's down the hall doing great. Guy was
he doesn't have a newspaper, man. How do you know it's him?
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, I tell you, it's just crazy times, right?
Yeah.
So Doug Jones gave a major policy speech this past week, and it is the most comprehensive gubernatorial package we have seen in a long, long time. We would love to see one from Senator Tuberville, but Susan, one of the big things, as he said, is he wants a moratorium on data centers, which is the opposite of Senator Tuberville, who says he wants to get as many, data centers as possible. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he is very pro data centers now.
He is. Jones also talked about, Medicaid initiative. He talked about, ballot initiatives for the citizens. He talked about a lot of things, but I think your point in that the data centers, I happen to agree with Jones on that. Alabama has a tendency to rush into things. And then we rush into them, and then, 5 years later we go, oh, wow, we didn't think about that. Let's take this time in Alabama history for once to slow down and have our think it through on. Yes, I know we need jobs, we need them fast, and especially in this economy, but let's not rush into a mistake, a possible mistake.
This may be the defining issue of this race.
Yeah.
It very well could be. Yeah,
I think it is. It really has caught fire. It's one of those issues that you really don't see. I don't think anybody kind of saw this coming as to take over the way that it has, and it has, man. It is. We had Philip Insler on our podcast, Alabama Politics, this week, and I was talking to him because he's one of the things that Philip is trying to do is go to all 67 counties and meet with everybody, a wide range of folks at different places, not just hold campaign events, but go to where people are and talk to them about issues that affect them. And he said it was by far the most pressing issue on everyone's mind. It's the thing that he got asked the most about everywhere he went, and it transcends political parties, economic status. It transcends race. All of it. They had such problems with data centers and where they are. And I think there's some places where both Tuberville and Jones kind of overlap in what they're saying, in that we're gonna eventually need to have data centers.
Oh,
and everybody knows this, right? But what Jones is saying is, look, we need to take a year or so, and let's take this down a notch. Let's first of all do away with the NDAs and all of the other craziness. I mean, some of the things that have been agreed to by your local government officials are off the charts insane. I mean, the NDAs, there's an agreement, I believe the one in Bessemer, to destroy documents on demand of the data center builders. I mean, what are we talking about, y'all? I mean, so we've got to come up with some standards to put in place on these things, but otherwise we're going to need them. And this thing about jobs, look, there are going to be construction jobs that come out of this thing, but most of these data centers are running on far less than 50 people after they're up and running, all right? Because they don't want humans in there, because humans can only screw them up. So they want to be off-site with everybody. And so I mean, the tax abatements and the things that have been promised, and there just needs to be some sort of look at this thing, an agreement by everybody in our legislature or in state government on how we're going to move forward before we can continue to allow this stuff.
Well, we need data centers. We need them in Alabama.
Yeah.
We need them to be done responsibly. I want to move on to the next subject here. Once again, and this is thanks to Tabitha Eisner, who is part of the Democratic leadership, tangentially, I suppose, who came out and said that Democrats should be voting in these congressional primaries, Republican congressional special primaries that are coming up this month. And Josh, that has caused an uproar, and the hard right is using it again as an excuse to hold closed primaries. And you've written about this.
Yeah, I just think that it's a misframed issue. All right, but look, I know Tabitha Eisner said Democrats ought to go out and vote for these people and try to beat them. Okay, but what you should do is, if you're in an area in which you have a representative who is up for election, you should pick the person who you like the best. And it should not matter what party you are or what party they are. If this is the election that you believe is most going to affect your life and your status, you have every right as an American citizen to vote for the person that is going to go up and represent you in whatever body they're representing you in. And the idea that we have to enter into some loyalty pledge to a group in order to cast a vote that we pay for in an election that we pay for is it's got to be the most un-American thing I've ever heard of.
And Susan, for me, this having to swear an allegiance or fill out a card that says I'm a Democrat or a Republican, I think is anathema to many, many, many Alabamians, because we don't want to label ourselves something on paper.
Right.
I mean, we're a stubborn lot. But I don't want to go and register as a Democrat or register as a Republican, and there's no place to register as an independent.
Right.
So you can't even vote. You're going to exclude everybody but the crazies.
Exactly. I mean, yes, there are people that are absolutely staunch Republicans. They're absolutely staunch Democrats. And then there are those of us in the middle where I might vote for a Republican in this race, and I might vote for a Democrat in that race.
Yeah.
Where does that leave me? Once again, disenfranchising voters that don't want to identify as one or another.
This is just another power play so that a small group of individuals can control who's in power. But nothing new under the sun. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your property is your home, your investment, and your legacy. Across the country, scammers are filing fraudulent deeds, often without the owner knowing until it's too late. REACT is a free alert system. If a document is filed using your name or tied to your property, you'll be notified within 24 hours.
Property fraud is a crime, and the faster we know it, the faster we can act.
Sign up today. Protect your property, protect your legacy.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Well, Josh, you broke some really, really important news this week when you wrote that State Senator Bobby Singleton, the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend.
And he is all of that.
All of those things wrapped up into one. And he is actually going to run to lead the Alabama Democratic Party. And I'm telling you, he is one of the really smart, good guys, and I think a leader that could pull this party together. And I don't think for one second, we've known Senator Singleton for a long, long time. He's in it to win and to lead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be the most important thing that the Democrats could do in the next, in the last 15, 20 years is this, because you're right. He comes into this, he has a friendly relationship with Joe Reed, with Randy Kelly, with a lot of the folks on that side of this argument, this long-running argument that happened. He is also friendly with Doug Jones and all of the people on that side of the argument. He doesn't have an allegiance to anybody in this, and he said so many, many times. Look, I can work with everybody and do this stuff, but more importantly than anything is he has a fantastic relationship with Alabama business leaders.
Yeah,
that has always been his bread and butter, is getting into those business deals with the state and businesses around the state, coming up with pro-business ideas that also are pro-worker ideas, that things that have moved the state forward and protected workers and made sure that there were jobs in some underprivileged areas and some forgotten about areas, while also making sure that the businesses were able to make money and that everybody was moving forward in this stuff. And I think those business leaders really appreciate what he's done, and I think him being at the top of the Alabama Democratic Party restores a lot of faith that they would had in that party 15, 20 years ago, and maybe some money starts to flow in and we start to turn this thing back around into a two-party state in which we could have some compromise and stop some of the nonsense that's occurred.
Yeah, and that's what we need. Susan, you put Bobby Singleton and Scott Stadhagen, the head of the ALGOP, in a room together in front of 1,000, 10,000 people. Bobby will have them eaten out of his hand. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent. He is smart. He knows his arguments. And like Josh said, he's not some lunatic Democrat.
No.
He is a pro-business, pro-worker Democrat, and we need that kind of party.
When I was covering the Senate, I loved watching Bobby. Because, as the press, we get to see a lot of stuff that the gallery doesn't get to see because they get up under that right in front of the press boxes, right, to do their business. Bobby worked. He worked that floor. And even when they would back up against, he was working with Republicans, he was working with Democrats, he was working to, not fight, but, let's come to a compromise. Let's come to an agreement here. He works really hard. He's dedicated to the state of Alabama. He loves the state of Alabama. He is a grand leader and a wonderful person.
Yeah.
I mean, he and I just have a fantastic relationship because he used to say, there's the people that tell the truth. There's the people that tell the truth. Because we would always tell the Democrat side of the story as well.
Yeah. He stopped in the middle of the Dexter Avenue one time, got out of the car when we were filming an opening for the show. And he really is, and true, a great leader and a good a man who has dedicated his life to Alabama government and has done a great job. And Josh, I think this could be monumental.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I think, and I'll say this about Stadhagen. That's one of the things that Singleton brought up as well when I talked to him. Again, interviewed him for this week's podcast, Alabama Politics This Week. And he said, he thought the Republicans had an advantage with Stadhagen being their chairperson because he was a person who was in the legislature, and that he is also in the legislature, and it would be something that Democrats could counter because they're both on the front lines of things. They see the stuff happening in real time. They understand the issues. They understand the arguments. They're getting, the lobbyists are coming right directly to them. This is not, the party chair is now not somebody who's getting the information secondhand. They're seeing it in real time, and they know where they can help. And so I think, and then also having been a candidate, he understands what candidates need, what they've been lacking from the party. And I think that's another big thing. This is something that could really turn this thing around, and I hope that they don't mess this up here next weekend.
I hope they don't either. But again, it's like Will Rogers said. He said, "I don't belong to any organized political party. I'm a Democrat." So we'll see what they do. I want to touch on this. I've been reading a lot, and of course we've been experiencing the whole idea of we're moving migrant workers out of the country. The rate of people that are in this country, whether legally or illegally, is dropping as our workforce. And we are hearing and reading, and the statistics prove this out, that America population is in steep decline. By 2030, there'll be more of us dying than being born. The only solution is immigration. Now, for 40 years, the Republicans and the Democrats have refused to pass comprehensive legislation. It goes back. Ronald Reagan tried it. George Bush tried it. Barack Obama tried it. Bill Clinton tried it. It was Joe Biden tried it. We had a comprehensive compromise on immigration in 2024 when then candidate Trump forced the Senate to stop it because it would have hurt him in the election. And that's always been the problem, the elections.
That's always been the problem. And, we're not only losing workers in the fields as far as the migrant workers, we're also losing, doctors, we're losing nurses, we're losing, higher end jobs as well because the people are not available for them. They're not I'm getting notices on my E-Verify every day, which is, immigration status and whatever, of who you can hire and you can't. And they're just firing off countries one right after another of people that you can't employ in the United States from whatever country, whatever 4 or 5 countries it is today.
Yeah, and living in rural Alabama, a lot of doctors, Josh, are from other countries, and even big cities. A lot of doctors come here to practice medicine who are from what some people have referred to as poop hole countries.
Yeah. No, listen, it's been, the height of racism. We have basically a president who told you that, the Haitian immigrants were eating the dogs, and that's one of the things that he used to get himself elected. And it's just been really undermining and vilifying immigrants in this country that it's been so shameful, man. It's just been such a shameful period of time.
It's embarrassing.
We have taken our neighbors and our friends and these people that we've hired for a number of different jobs and the folks that we all love to work with and employ, and we've vilified them for simply existing in our country.
Yep.
And this was not the thing. We were going to get rid of the bad people. That's what he said. We have the bad folks. We're the bad hombres, as he called them. And it's been so opposite of that, and it's been such a shameful time.
Anyway, we have to leave it right there. The arithmetic is real, whether you like it or not. All right, you're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your property is your home, your investment, and your legacy. Across the country, scammers are filing fraudulent deeds, often without the owner knowing until it's too late. REACT is a free alert system. If a document is filed using your name or tied to your property, you'll be notified within 24 hours.
Property fraud is a crime, and the faster we know it, the faster we can act.
Sign up today. Protect your property, protect your legacy.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. You know, I'm fond of history. I'm very fond of history, and I'm fond of American history particularly, but I also like other nations' history. And there's basically nothing new under the sun. We've seen this all before. But on July 1st, 2025, John Snopes was put on trial for teaching evolution in the state of Tennessee. This became a hot button issue because the state of Tennessee had passed the Butler Act, which said you can't teach evolution in Tennessee schools. Well, they took old John T. Snopes to court, and it became what was known then as the trial of the century. And it was Clarence Darrow and William Bryan Jennings were the lawyers. And I mean, it was a big, big deal. Now, Snopes lost the case and got fined $100. It was later appealed, overthrown on a technicality. But what it did is it opened up the debate 101 years ago about what state authority to have has to restrict what can be taught in the classroom. Fast forward, Susan, to 2024 in Alabama, and we pass a law that limits what can be taught in classrooms. In other words, when does it become dangerous that government wants to control thought?
Well, also at this point, they're also wanting to control history.
Right.
You know, what can be in the Smithsonian, what can be in history books. You know, the idea of education is to expand thought, not contract it. So what they're trying to do, whether it's through Snopes or it's through whether we teach the Civil War in schools or not, is they're trying to they're trying to control what kids know. And to me, that is just wrong. I mean, they should be expanding their minds. They should be able to see these things and learn from these things so those mistakes don't get done again in the future.
I mean, Josh, it's gone so badly, it's gotten so bad that they've gone after the Smithsonian Museum and labeled it they've labeled it woke because it's telling both sides of the American story. My argument is you cannot teach emancipation without teaching slavery. Mm-hmm. You know, go ahead.
No, it's I think from Scopes all the way through, this is so I think the limiting and determining of what gets taught in schools has to be determined by a process, and we have these processes specifically when we're talking about scientific teachings and things of that nature. We have a scientific process that things go through in order for us before it ever arrives in a classroom or even gets close to a textbook anywhere. What we cannot allow to happen is for alternative reasoning to come into this, mainly religious reasoning to come into this, or racism to enter into this, and that's what's happening right now. What we're so afraid of, apparently, is white people being upset to learn what other white people have done before them. And I don't know why this bothers some people so much to learn that some of their ancestors, maybe even some of their relatives, immediate relatives, acted very, very poorly in the 50s and the 60s, and then on further back. And God knows what some of them did to the Native Americans while we were here, okay? And, this is all part of this story of America. And it's all part of how we got here and how we ended up here. And this idea that you need to limit this to make people feel better, instead of teaching this and learning from it and making better people out of that. I don't understand the thinking behind labeling the Smithsonian as having some anti-American teachings because they tell you what actually happened in America. What are you talking about?
If you love your country, you should believe that it is strong enough to face its faults so we don't repeat them. And that is patriotism is not kowtowing to the administration of the moment. It is staying faithful to the truth of what this country means. And I want to go back to one more historic thing, Josh, and I know you know this well, and Susan does too. On the Selma to Montgomery March, those marchers stopped in a field in Lowndes County. And the man who let them sleep overnight in their field was threatened. He was said that terrible things were going to happen to him if he let those people sleep in his field. He didn't bow. He didn't bow to that. He let those folks sleep in that field, and now that's part of a heritage trail. But now they want to build a data center just a few short miles from that historic site. Josh, that is sacred ground to people in the civil rights movement. And look, I'm not against data centers. I'm all for data centers. Because I use a lot of data. But
Yeah.
Josh, this is sacred ground, and this is not where we should be building because the land is cheap.
No, it shouldn't be. And listen, I'm with you on the data center things. We mentioned at the top of this. I understand the necessity of them in the future and how we need to have them to compete and for everybody to be able to do the work that's going to be required of Americans. Okay, I get it. I do, and I appreciate it. But you're right, and this is back to what Doug Jones said. Okay, we've got to have some sort of a process that's open and transparent for the people, so that everybody is on the same page about what is allowed, what isn't allowed, and what we're going to push for, and how these things need to be put before the public, and have the public do this. I mean, I get it. There's also a matter here of private land and who can sell a private land to a private company to do this business. But at the same time, the noise pollution, the water usage, the energy usage, all of these things expand outward from that private land, okay? And those things have to be balanced, and they have to be balanced by a government entity that is responsible to its people, and that's what has to happen here.
But that's going to have to be the last word on it. We're not against data centers. We want them built responsibly, and we do not want them built on solemn ground.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Think
All right.
it through.
You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.